Before we begin, let everything around you feel a little quieter, just for now. You do not need to do anything special. You can simply listen and let the words move slowly. If your eyes want to close, that is fine. If they stay open, that is fine too. Tonight we are staying with an ordinary object, a key. A key is small and easy to hold. It is shaped so it can go into a lock and help the lock open, close, or change state. Most of the time, a key does this without comment. A key spends far more time waiting than working. It waits in an entryway bowl or tray. It waits on a hook rack. It waits in a drawer. It waits in a pocket, in a bag, or in a coat pocket. It might sit on a garage shelf. It might rest in a desk organizer. It might hang from a lanyard by the door. It might be clipped to a ring with other keys. Many household keys spend most of their time sitting still in one of a few repeating locations. As we go along, we will stay with the whole object. We will notice how it fits, how it is carried, and where it quietly sits. We will notice the calm words people use, like spare and duplicate. There is no rush. A key does not ask for speed. It asks for calm fit and steady turning. So the pace here can be calm too. Now we can move on. Chapter 1a, plain definition and a narrow job. A key is a handheld, shaped piece of material designed to align and move the internal parts of a lock so the lock can open, close, or change state. That is its narrow job. In daily life, a key is usually judged by how uneventful it feels. If it inserts smoothly, stops where it should, and turns predictably, it becomes almost invisible in routine. Many people expect one key for one lock. A house key belongs to one door. A padlock key belongs to one padlock. A mailbox key belongs to one mailbox. This is not always the same, because some systems are planned so one key opens a defined group of locks in a master key system. But the everyday assumption is simple: one key, one place. A key is also a handheld object with a certain everyday scale. This may vary, but keys are often described across a typical range from small cabinet keys to longer door or automotive keys. Some descriptions place many keys in a length range of about 25 to 90 millimeters. Many flat keys are often described in a thickness range of about 1.5 to 3.5 millimeters. These are not rules, just common ranges, and they may vary. Fit begins with the keyway, the slot in the lock that guides the key. The key has a profile, the side outline that matches the keyway. If the profile does not match, the key may not insert fully, or it may jam. If it matches, the blade can slide in and reach a stopping point. Many keys have a shoulder stop, a surface that limits insertion depth. Some are tip-stop designs, where the tip defines insertion depth. Either way, the key reaches a consistent depth, and that depth matters. Then comes the turn. Fingers pinch the head, align the blade, insert, push to a stop, and rotate with steady torque. The pattern of cuts along the blade is called the bitting. Those cuts help set how the internal lock parts align. Keys are shaped instead of being simple rods because the lock needs a matching profile and a matching cut pattern, not just force. There is also a quiet relationship between the key and the lock's condition. If a key sticks, it can be the lock's internal condition rather than the key itself. Sometimes it is dirt or grit. Sometimes it is burrs on the key. Sometimes it is wear. In daily life, people usually just notice the routine feels less smooth, and this may vary. Keys are carried because access happens in many places. A key has to travel to a door, a gate, a shed, a mailbox, or a car. So it becomes a portable object that stays near the hand. Recap: a key is a small tool meant to make a lock change state in a predictable way. Now we can move on. Chapter 2: the words people use around keys. Most key words. People say key, house key, door key, padlock key, cabinet key, mailbox key, and car key. They name keys by what they open, because that reduces mix-ups. In a home with several keys, a simple name can prevent repeated trial and error at a lock. That matters because uncertainty encourages extra force, and extra force can lead to bending or roughness over time. Some words are about making or copying. A key blank is a not yet cut key shape to fit a keyway. It matters because duplication begins with matching the blank profile accurately. A duplicate key is a copy cut to match an existing key, and small cutting differences affect smooth turning. A spare key is a stored backup, and it matters because storage location and labeling reduce loss and confusion. People often keep a spare for a neighbor, or in a drawer, or in a key safe, and it is forgotten until needed. Some words describe the parts you touch and feel. The blade is the inserting portion. The head is the part held by fingers. The keyring hole is the opening for a ring, and it affects long-term carry wear. Words like shoulder stop and tip stop describe how insertion depth is set. Words like keyway and profile describe what lets the key enter. Words like chamfer and deburring describe small finishing choices that change comfort and insertion feel. Some words describe systems and access. A master key is designed to open multiple locks in a system. A change key operates only one lock in that system. A restricted keyway is a profile control to limit blank availability, and this changes duplication access and supply chains. In daily life, people may never say restricted keyway, but they may notice when a key is harder to duplicate, and this may vary. Some words are about shapes people notice. A double-sided key has cuts on both edges. A dimple key is a flat key with round dimple cuts. A tubular key is cylindrical with radial cuts. A skeleton key is an older style. A warded key is another older style shape to pass internal obstructions. A lever lock key is used with lever locks and is often longer, and this may vary. A valet key is a limited access car key where the difference is what it opens. A transponder car key contains an electronic identification, and it can fail electronically even if the metal is intact. Some car keys are remote fobs with a metal blade, which can be convenient but bulkier, and this may vary. People also use labels. A key tag is a label attached for identification. Tags reduce confusion but can add bulk, and this may vary. Stamped markings can help too, though recessed letters can collect dark residue. In practice, vocabulary and labeling exist to keep a key from becoming a mystery object. Recap: most key vocabulary exists to prevent mix-ups and make copying routine. Now we can move on. Chapter 3: where keys live inside a home. Keys often have an assigned resting place, even if nobody calls it that. A bowl or tray near the entryway is common. It fits the moment of arrival. A key comes out, the lock changes state, and the key needs a place to land. Over time, the dish becomes part of the routine. A dish is convenient, but it also allows drift. Keys can clatter and mix with similar-looking keys. Two keys that look similar can still feel different, and that can lead to small mix-ups. A dish can also become a small record of the day, because keys are often kept near thresholds, and thresholds are decision points in daily routines. If a set is missing, someone notices. A hook rack changes the pattern. Keys hang and stay visible. This can mean less pocket wear, because keys return to the rack instead of traveling through the home. It can also reduce the slow scratching that happens when keys ride in pockets with other metal items. But a rack can be forgotten if it is not in the right place, and this may vary. Drawers are another common home for keys. A drawer can feel safer and tidier. It can also make a key easier to forget, especially a spare. A spare key in a drawer can sit untouched for a long time. A rarely used key, like a shed key or a safe key, can sit long enough for dust to collect slowly, and for surfaces to feel a little dull until they are wiped. Some homes use a key safe. A key safe is planned access more than daily access. It is a place for a spare, for neighbors or family, or for a backup routine. When a spare has a known location, it reduces panic during a lockout moment. It also keeps one copy less worn, which can matter if a working key becomes worn over time, and this may vary. Keys also rest in pockets, bags, coat pockets, and desk organizers. Sometimes this is planned, and sometimes it happens by drift, especially at night in low light. Keys can end up on counters, tables, or jacket pockets. This wandering is one reason people later decide to pick one consistent spot and then practice returning keys to it. Even surfaces matter a little. Keys sit on wood, ceramic trays, or metal trays. The surface changes the noise, and it changes how much keys slide and rub. None of this is dramatic, but it shapes the small feel of daily life. The calm value is predictability. A consistent resting place makes keys less noticeable because it removes searching and guessing. Recap: keys tend to settle into a few repeat locations that support the household's flow. Now we can move on. Chapter 4: How keys are carried during the day. Carrying changes two things: how easy the key is to find, and how the key wears. A key can be clipped to a ring, hung, pocketed, or placed in a dish. It is frequently handled alongside other metal items. Pocket carry is simple. It keeps keys close and makes them easy to reach at a door. It also puts keys near fabric lint and sometimes coins. Coins and keys together can scratch. Over time, pocket abrasion acts like slow polishing, and keys can become smoother to the touch. Pocket carry can also leave a film from hand oils and fabric, and this may vary. Some keys spend most of their life in pockets, and the pocket becomes a steady environment. Bag carry shifts the problem. A key in a bag has less pocket abrasion, but it can be harder to find. It becomes one small object among many. Keys that live in bags tend to have fewer pocket lint deposits but more small impact marks, because they bump into other items. In a bag, a key can also be dropped and found again without much thought, and this may vary. Many people carry keys as a bundle on a ring. A ring keeps keys together, but it adds weight. A heavy keyring can change how a key feels in the lock even when the key itself is correctly cut. Extra weight increases wear at the keyring hole. The hole often shows wear earlier than the blade because it rubs constantly against rings. Heavy bundles can also increase bending risk if someone turns with the ring attached. Carrying very heavy keychains can amplify bending and hole elongation. Some people separate a single key for quiet handling. This reduces noise and weight. It can lower wear. It can also increase misplacement risk because a single key is easy to set down and forget. Some people like the quiet and accept the risk, and this may vary. Some keys hang from a lanyard or use clips. These can keep keys visible and easy to grab. They can also change how much keys swing and rub, and swinging can add repeated wear at the hole over time, and this may vary. Carrying is mostly a quiet trade-off. It shapes the key slowly, through scratches, polishing, and the steady wear around the hole. Recap: how a key is carried mainly changes wear patterns and how quickly it is found. Now we can move on. Chapter 5: A day in the life of a typical household key. A key is used in short bursts. It appears at a door, turns once or twice, and disappears again. Most of its day is storage. Morning departure often includes a quick check, a pocket pat, a glass, a reach toward the hook rack. This pause becomes automatic. It is a small checkpoint in routine. Then the key is used. Fingers pinch the head. The blade aligns to the keyway. The key inserts, pushes to a stop, and turns with steady torque. Often this happens with one hand while holding bags. Then the key goes back into a pocket or bag, or returns to a ring. During the day, keys can move through different places. Workday routine can mean keys move between coat, desk, and bag. Keys can get mixed with similar-looking keys. This can lead to small pauses. A person may recognize a key by touch patterns on the head rather than by sight. A small scratch, a worn stamp, or a different head shape can be enough. Some use is brief and repetitive. Mailbox stops are short. A key turns, and then it is put away. If a lock is stiff and a person rushes, a key may get slightly twisted, and this may vary. Outdoor lock routines can include dirt, rain, or gloves. Afterward, wiping and drying can keep the key feeling ordinary. Evening return brings the key back to the door. After the door is handled, the key is set down. In low light, the location can drift. It lands on a countertop, a table, or in a jacket pocket. Many homes end up with a rule, spoken or unspoken, about where keys should go. When that rule exists, keys become easier to find and less stressful. Night routines can be quiet. Some people notice where the keys ended up. They may find them still in a pocket. They may move them back to the bowl. Sometimes keys become informal markers for who last left the house if they are missing from the tray. Occasional use is another pattern. A rarely used key, like a shed key, sits untouched for long stretches. It can look new. It can still benefit from a quick wipe before use. That small wipe can remove dust and reduce a gritty feel, and this may vary. A spare key usually stays still. It may be in a drawer, a desk organizer, a key safe, or another known spot. It is forgotten until then. When it is needed, it quietly prevents a larger disruption. Recap: most key use is brief, with long quiet periods of storage in between. Now we can move on. Chapter 6: Mild history as a sequence of practical improvements. Key history is mostly about practicality, and many details need verification. The story can be told as small changes that made keys more repeatable and more ordinary. Early wooden lock and key concepts are described in an ancient period, and this needs verification. The idea is basic access control with available materials. Later, metal keys become common in some regions, and this needs verification. Metal improves durability and reduces swelling and warping, and this may vary. Warded locks and matching keys spread in a historical period, and this needs verification. Key shape mainly navigates internal obstructions. Lever-based lock designs appear in an early modern period, and this needs verification. Keys lift levers to set a gate, and internal movement becomes more controlled. A quiet turning point is industrial consistency. Industrial metalworking improves blank consistency across the 18th and 19th century, and this needs verification. More uniform key stock makes keys easier to produce and replace. Pin tumbler designs are refined and standardized in the 19th century, and this needs verification. More repeatable bitting systems support standardized servicing. Duplication becomes common later. Commercial key cutting and duplication becomes common in the late 19th century to early 20th century, and this needs verification. Standardized key blank catalogs expand in the 20th century, and this needs verification. These changes make a key replaceable. They turn loss and wear into routine inconveniences rather than large problems. In the 20th century, surface finishes like nickel plating become more typical, and this needs verification. Automotive mechanical keys proliferate, and this needs verification. Later, some automotive keys use high-precision milling patterns, sometimes called sidewinder patterns, and this needs verification. Then some car keys gain an electronic identification, called a transponder key, and this needs verification. Remote fobs combine with metal blades, and this needs verification. In the 21st century, more coated or grippy heads and mold shells become common, and this needs verification. For some users, keyless entry reduces daily metal key use, and this needs verification, while keys still exist as backups. Overall, keys become ordinary through standardization. A standardized blank and a common duplication service are not exciting, but they make daily life smoother. Recap: key history is mostly a story of standardization and material practicality. Now we can move on. Chapter 7: What fit feels like in the hand. Fit is mostly a feeling. A well-fitting key feels dull in the best way. It inserts, stops, turns, and returns, without scraping sensations. Insertion usually feels guided. The keyway guides the blade. If the profile matches, the key slides to a consistent depth. At the stop, the hand feels a clear end point. That stop can be a shoulder stop or a tip stop, and this may vary. Either way, the stop sets the position for turning. Turning is a small act of steady torque. A key should turn without needing wiggling. When it does, the lock changes state, and the hand relaxes. A key that holds crisp-cut details can feel smooth but firm over time, and this may vary. The same key can also feel different in the same lock depending on hand angle and load direction, and this may vary. When a key feels sticky, people often add force. That may work briefly, but it increases bending risk. It can also hide the real cause. Sticky feel can come from dirt and grit. It can come from burrs on the cuts. It can come from corrosion roughness. It can also come from the lock's internal condition rather than the key, and this may vary. Heavy keyrings change fit feel. A heavy keyring can change how a key feels in the lock even when it is correctly cut. Weight and leverage change how the hand holds the key. Some people twist using the ring as leverage. This increases sideways stress. It can lead to bending or twisting over time, and this may vary. Rushing also changes the feel. Turning while the key is only partially inserted can twist the blade. Using extra torque in a stiff lock can bend the key. A key that is slightly bent may still open a lock, but it usually feels less smooth. Calm handling tends to preserve the key and the lock. A good key becomes invisible because it feels predictable. Insert, stop, turn, the same small motion each time, with no need for thought. Recap: a good key feels predictable. Insert, stop, turn, and return. Now we can move on. Chapter 8: Small differences that matter: thickness, finish, and edges. Two keys can open the same lock and still feel different. Small thickness differences change friction. Small surface differences change how the key slides. Two keys that look similar can feel different because small width or thickness differences change friction, and this may vary. Many flat keys are often around 1.5 to 3.5 millimeters thick, and this may vary. A slightly thicker key can scrape. A slightly thinner key can feel loose. Users often describe both as not quite right. This is where tolerance matters. Tolerance is the allowed dimensional variation, and tiny differences decide whether a key feels smooth or tight. Finish affects feel and cleaning. Polished surfaces slide and wipe clean. Matte surfaces hide scratches but can hold oils. Plating can improve corrosion resistance and surface feel, but plating can wear through. Coating can change feel and slow tarnish, but coating can peel and feel sticky over time. A key's finish also influences how quickly skin oils become visible. These are everyday trade-offs, and they may vary. Edges matte. A chamfer is a small bevel on edges, and it helps reduce snagging and improve insertion feel. A small chamfer at the tip can noticeably change insertion smoothness. Deburring removes sharp edges after cutting. If burrs remain, insertion can feel scratchy. A newly cut key sometimes feels rough until tiny burrs wear off or are removed. Edge finish matters because sharp edges create user discomfort and can scrape locks. A new duplicate can feel different from an old original. Small cutting differences affect smooth turning. Copying a worn key can reproduce wear instead of restoring original shape. This is why some keys can be code cut from a key code when that information exists. A code cut can restore geometry when a worn key copies poorly, and this may vary. Residue also changes feel. Hand oils and pocket fabric can leave a smell and film. A dark film can be metal oxide and grime. A simple wipe helps. An occasional mild dish soap and warm water wash can help for all metal keys, followed by full drying. Harsh cleaners can dull coatings or discolor plated finishes, and this may vary. These differences are small, but the hand notices them. Keys are judged by feel, and small friction can change confidence quickly. Recap: small dimensional and surface differences can make a correct key feel incorrect. Now we can move on. Chapter 9: Household Key Sets and Quiet Organization. Key sets grow over time. A door key, then another door key. A mailbox key. A padlock key. A cabinet key. Sometimes a car key. Sometimes a spare and a duplicate. This collection can become heavy and noisy, or it can be managed quietly. Organization is usually about avoiding small daily delays. People want to reach for the right key once, not many times. They want to avoid forcing a lock because they are not sure which key is correct. They also want to avoid losing track of spares, which can turn a small problem into a bigger one. Some households group keys by purpose, keeping entry keys together, outdoor keys together, and storage keys together. Some separate rarely used keys so the daily set stays lighter. This can reduce hole wear and reduce bending risk from heavy bundles, and this may vary. Some people keep a quiet key set with fewer keys to reduce noise and wear. Labels help. Key tags reduce confusion but add bulk. Stamped markings can help identification, though stamped markings can collect residue in recessed letters. Labels and predictable storage work together. A labeled spare in a drawer is easier to find. A labeled spare for a neighbor is easier to return. Some systems use a master key. A master key opens multiple locks in a system. A change key opens only one lock in that system. In those places, organization is built into the plan. In homes, organization is often simple: a bowl, a hook, a drawer, and a label. Many homes also have unknown keys. A lock is replaced, and the key remains. People frequently carry keys longer than they keep the locks those keys fit. Keys are small and easy to keep, so they gather quietly. This is how the mystery key pile appears. A predictable system keeps keys boring. When you know where they are, and which is which, keys become a smooth part of routine again. Recap: Organization makes keys less noticeable by removing small uncertainties. Now we can move on. Chapter 10: Occasional contexts, seasons, guests, and travel. Most days are routine, but some days are not. Seasons change, and hands change. Guests arrive, and keys are shared. Travel happens, and spares become part of planning. In winter, gloves reduce dexterity. Grip becomes less precise. People apply higher torque. A key can feel colder in winter, and cold metal can change grip habits. These changes can increase bending risk, and this may vary. In summer, sweat increases surface oils, and keys may show oils faster. Finish influences how quickly oils become visible, and this may vary. Rain changes the routine too. Outdoor locks involve dirt and moisture. A padlock key used outdoors may collect more grit, and grit can increase scratch patterns. After rain, keys can be left in damp pockets or bags. Moisture exposure without drying can speed wear and corrosion, especially for steel or plated surfaces with scratches, and this may vary. Drying a key is simple: towel dry, and let it air dry briefly. Moisture left in grooves can increase dull film over time. Guests and borrowed keys create small routines. A spare may be given to a neighbor or family member. Return habits matter. Labeling matters. A key tag reduces mix-ups and accidental lockouts. A calm handoff routine keeps keys from drifting into the wrong drawer. Travel shifts attention to the spare key. The spare becomes a planning object, not a daily object. Someone holds it, or it sits in a known safe place. After a long absence, a lock can feel stiffer. Slow turning and full insertion help keep stress low, and this may vary. When people rush after travel, they may apply more torque than needed, and that can change how a key wears over time. Occasional contexts do not change what a key is. They mostly change grip, moisture exposure, and handoff habits. Recap: occasional contexts mostly change grip, moisture exposure, and handoff routines. Now we can move on. Chapter 11: Keys in the broader home environment. Keys sit near doors because doors are thresholds. Thresholds are decision points. That is why key bowls persist. Keys are often kept near entryways because that is where leaving and returning happens. Keys touch many surfaces. Counters, trays, shelves, drawers, garage shelves, desks. Keys are part of the home's small flow of objects. They share space with mail, phones, pens, and small containers. They are rarely the center of attention. Sound and feel can matter. A key bowl creates clatter. A hook rack creates a small jingle. A pocket makes keys quieter. Some people keep a quiet key set. A heavy keyring can change pocket comfort. A key's hole often shows wear earlier than the blade because it rubs against rings. Over time, the hole can elongate, and edges can become sharper. This can make a key feel rougher to handle, and it can be a reason to lighten the bundle, and this may vary. Keys also collect small traces of life. Scratches from coins. Lint from fabric. A dark film from metal oxide and grime. Keys tend to be handled alongside other metal items, and that contact leaves small marks. A key can become smoother because pocket abrasion acts like slow polishing. A key can look tarnished and still function fine. Appearance and fit do not always track, and this is a useful thing to remember. Many people identify keys by touch patterns on the head rather than by sight. A small nick, a slightly different thickness, or a different head shape can be enough. This tactile familiarity is quiet and comforting. It reduces the need to look closely. It also helps when lighting is low, and people still want the right key on the first try. There are mild safety notes too. Keys are small metal objects. Typical concerns are sharp edges, pocket puncture risk if poorly finished, and choking hazards for small children. Most of the time, good finishing and simple handling keep keys comfortable and safe in routine. If a key feels sharp or snags fabric, that is a sign to wipe it or to address burrs, and this may vary. Keys are ordinary household objects. They sit, they travel, they touch other things, and they slowly change in small ways. Recap: keys quietly integrate into household surfaces, sounds, and small habits. Now we can move on. Chapter 12: A calm summary of what it is like to live with keys. Living with keys is mostly living with routine. Keys are repetitive, low-attention tools. Most of the day they sit still in one of a few repeating locations. Then, for a moment, they come to the hand. Storage habits are the real system. Many homes use an entryway bowl or tray, or a hook rack, or a drawer, or a pocket, or a bag. Some also use a key safe, a garage shelf, or a desk organizer. When a home has one consistent spot, keys stay boring. When the spot drifts, keys start to wander, and the routine becomes less smooth. Wear is gradual. Pocket abrasion can polish a key. Heavy keyrings can wear the whole. Dirt and moisture can change feel, and this may vary. A key can be functionally fine while looking tarnished. Color alone is not a reason to replace a key. Function and smoothness matter more. If a key regularly sticks, needs wiggling, or requires unusually high force, it can be a sign to look at the key and also the lock, because the lock itself can be the issue, and this may vary. A spare reduces anxiety. A spare key is a stored backup. It matters because storage location and labeling reduce loss and confusion. A spare can be forgotten until needed, and then it quietly solves a problem. Some keys last years to decades for lightly used household use, and this may vary. Replacement is commonly triggered by loss, bending, wear, or lock replacement, not by a fixed schedule. Gentle handling keeps keys ordinary for a long time. Avoid using keys as pry tools, scrapers, box cutters, or screwdrivers. Avoid turning while not fully inserted. Avoid very heavy bundles that amplify bending and hold wear. Wipe when needed. Wash occasionally with mild dish soap and warm water for all metal keys, then dry fully. For car keys with electronics, avoid soaking and wipe only with a slightly damp cloth, then dry. Avoid harsh chemicals, especially on coated heads or electronic car keys, and this may vary. A key is small, but it performs a specific job. It fits into a slot, reaches a consistent depth, and turns with controlled pressure. Most of the time, it does this without comment. Then it goes back to sitting still, in its quiet place. Recap: keys stay boring when routines are stable and handling is gentle. Chapter 13: Material selection as a set of quiet compromises. A key seems simple in the hand, but it starts as a choice about material. That choice is usually not about making the strongest object possible. It is about making a key that can be made in large numbers, cut cleanly, and used without fuss. It is also about how a key behaves in pockets, in outdoor air, and in ordinary dampness. Brass alloys are common for keys. One calm reason is that brass can be shaped and cut in a predictable way. When a key is duplicated, the cutting tool needs to remove metal cleanly. If the metal cuts cleanly, the cuts can be more accurate, and the edges can be finished more easily. That supports a key that turns smoothly. Nickel silver is also common in key blanks. Nickel silver is a copper-nickel zinc alloy. The name can sound confusing because it is not silver in the everyday sense. What matters is that it is used for blanks, and it supports predictable cutting and handling. Steel appears in some contexts. This may vary, but steel can be used depending on the kind of key and the expected conditions. Steel can be strong, but stronger is not always better. A very hard material can be harder to duplicate cleanly. That can lead to rough cuts, tiny burrs, and a scratchy feel, even when the key is the correct shape. A key can be durable yet unpleasant in use. So makers often choose materials that keep the whole system calm and repeatable. There are also alternate materials. Aluminum alloys can appear. Titanium alloys can appear. Plastics or rubber can be used as coverings or head grips on some keys. These coverings change grip and comfort, but they also change how the key is cleaned, and this may vary. Material choice is tied to machinability. Machinability is about how a material behaves when it is cut. If a material cuts cleanly, duplication tends to be smoother. If it does not, the cut can feel rough, and the lock can feel gritty even when it is clean. Corrosion resistance matters too. Corrosion is a chemical attack that roughens surfaces. Roughness increases friction and insertion resistance. In everyday life, that shows up as a key that feels less smooth. So the material decision is a quiet compromise. It aims for steady performance, not extremes. Key materials are chosen for steady performance, not for extremes. Now we can move on. Chapter 14: Properties that show up in the hand. People do not usually think about metallurgy when they use a key. They notice sensations. A key feels smooth, or it feels sticky. It feels easy to insert, or it feels resistant. These sensations come from a few key properties. Hardness is resistance to deformation. Hardness matters because if a key is too soft, it can wear quickly. Wear is gradual material loss from friction. Worn cuts can cause turning problems and internal misalignment inside the lock. At the same time, if a key is too hard, it can be brittle or harder to cut. Harder to cut can mean more burrs and a rougher edge unless finishing is careful. Ductility is the ability to bend without breaking. Ductility matters because keys often fail by bending when overloaded. A ductile key may bend rather than snap. That is not ideal, but it often avoids a sudden separation in the lock. A bent key can still work for a while, but it may feel less smooth, and this may vary. Surface friction also matters. Friction is what the hand feels as drag. A key with a good surface finish and gentle chamfers can feel calm. A chamfer is a small bevel on edges. It reduces snagging and improves insertion feel. A key without good edge treatment can feel sharp. It can scrape the keyway, and it can feel rough in pockets. Corrosion matters in a practical way. Corrosion roughens surfaces. Rough surfaces increase friction. That can make insertion feel resistant even when the key is the correct shape. Patina is different. Patina is a slow surface color change. Patina matters mostly for appearance and surface feel, usually not for function. Coatings change tactile feel too. A coating can be a lacquer or polymer. Coatings can help grip and appearance. But they can chip, and they can feel sticky over time, and this may vary. Plastics and rubber coverings on some key heads can also change grip. They can be comfortable. They can also change cleaning choices. Pocket abrasion is a quiet finishing step that happens after manufacturing. A key carried loosely with other metal items can be rubbed and scratched. This can act like slow polishing in some places, while also creating random scratches in others, and this may vary. In time, a key's feel can change in small ways. The hand notices those changes before the eye does. Everyday properties become sensations: smooth, sticky, stiff, or flexible. Now we can move on. Chapter 15 From alloy to strip, preparing the raw stock. Before a key looks like a key, it is raw metal prepared for predictable shaping. This is not the glamorous part. It is the calm part where consistency is built in. In general terms, the metal is melted and its composition is controlled. This means the mix is kept within a target range so it behaves predictably later. If composition drifts, cutting feel and finishing can drift too, and this may vary. After melting, the material is cast into workable forms. Then it is rolled into strip thickness. Rolling is how the material becomes a flat form that can later be stamped. Thickness control matters here. A key's blade thickness affects fit. Many flat keys are often around 1.5 to 3.5 millimeters thick, and this may vary. If the stock thickness is inconsistent, later cutting and fit can be inconsistent. A key that is slightly too thick can scrape. A key that is slightly too thin can feel loose. Tiny differences can change confidence quickly. Annealing is also part of preparation. Annealing is a heat step that supports formability. It makes the metal less prone to cracking during stamping. This prevents small defects that could become sharp edges later. Annealing is a quiet enabler. It helps the later processes work smoothly. The surface is also cleaned for later finishing. A clean surface supports more consistent finishing steps. It supports plating if plating is used. It supports coatings if coatings are used. And it reduces small problems that show up as roughness later. Consistent strip is the foundation for the rest. If the strip is consistent, later steps can be consistent. If it is not, later steps spend more time correcting, and correction often means extra roughness, and this may vary. Good keys often start with boring control of thickness and softness. Now we can move on. Chapter 16 Blanking and Basic Shaping. Once the metal stock is prepared, the next step is making the basic outline. This is where a key begins to look like a key, even though it still does not open anything yet. Stamping is one common method for blanks. Stamping is cutting blanks from sheet stock. It is fast and consistent for high volumes. The goal is not only speed. The goal is repeatability. A repeatable outline makes later steps easier. It also helps keys feel similar in the hand from one batch to the next. During blanking, the keyring hole is usually pierced. The keyring hole is the opening for a ring. It matters because its size and reinforcement affect long-term carry wear. The hole seems simple, but it becomes a stress point when keys are carried on heavy rings. If the hole has rough edges, it can wear faster. If it is poorly finished, it can start problems later. Edges and burrs show up at this stage. Burrs are small rough edges left after cutting. Deburring is removing sharp edges after cutting. Deburring matters because burrs scrape keyways and feel rough. Even before bitting is cut, the blank can have outline burrs that need to be managed. Straightness and flatness also matter. A key that is slightly bent might not look dramatic, but it can be felt in the lock. A slight bend can create friction, and a user may respond by applying extra force. So early sorting and early correction help prevent later trouble. Sorting by profile happens early too. Profile is the side outline that matches the keyway. If blanks are mixed, the wrong blank can be cut, and then the finished key still cannot enter the lock. So early sorting prevents waste and reduces mix-ups. At this stage, some pieces are rejected as scrap. Some are reworked. These decisions are routine. They keep the stream of blanks predictable. Early shaping is about repeatability and removing the beginnings of roughness. Now we can move on. Chapter 17 Creating the profile that matches the keyway. A key needs permission to enter the lock. That permission is the profile. The keyway is the slot in the lock that guides the key. The profile is the side outline that matches the keyway. If the profile does not match, the key may not insert fully, or it may jam. In that case, the bitting does not matter. The cuts could be perfect, and it still will not work. That is why profile control is calm but critical. There are general approaches to forming keyway-related features. Milling is removing material with a cutter. It matters for precise grooves and clean geometry. Broaching is pulling or pushing a toothed tool to form internal shapes. It matters for consistent features related to the keyway. The details of how these are used can vary by key type and by maker. The guiding edges need good surface condition. If edges are rough, the key can feel gritty in use. If edges are too sharp, the key can scrape the keyway and feel wrong. This is where finishing steps, like chamfering and deburring, support comfort. Gauging profile accuracy matters. Tolerance is the allowed dimensional variation. Tiny width differences decide whether a key feels smooth or tight. A profile that is slightly too wide can feel like dirt even when the lock is clean. A profile that is slightly too narrow can feel loose. Neither is pleasant. Restricted keyway systems also exist. A restricted keyway is a profile control to limit blank availability. This changes duplication access and supply chains. In everyday life, the user might simply notice that duplication is less straightforward, and this may vary. But on the manufacturing side, it means profile control and distribution control are part of the plan. Profile is the quiet gatekeeper. It must match before anything else matters. Profile is the quiet gatekeeper. It must match before anything else matters. Now we can move on. Chapter 18: Cutting the bitting, copying, and code cutting. Once the blank can enter the lock, the next question is, will it operate the lock? That is where bitting comes in. Bitting is the pattern of cut depths along the key. Cuts are the individual notches or milled shapes. Depth and spacing control lock operation. In simple terms, the cuts help align internal parts so the lock can change state. Duplication is a common workflow. A duplicate key is a copy cut to match an existing key. Duplication begins with matching the blank profile accurately. Then a key cutting machine copies the cut pattern. A key cutting machine is a tool that duplicates or code cuts, and calibration affects accuracy. This is why small cutting differences affect smooth turning. A duplicate can open the lock and still feel slightly different. Code cutting is another workflow. A key code is a numeric letter specification of cut depths. Code cut means cutting a key from a code, not copying. Code cutting matters because it can restore original geometry when a worn key copies poorly. Copying is practical because it is fast, but it inherits the condition of the original key. If the original is rounded from years of use, the copy can reproduce that rounding. This is the quiet problem of a copy of a copy. Over time, repeated copying can drift the geometry, and this may vary. Cutting machines need to be steady. Calibration is a general concern. Small offsets can create shallow cuts, deep cuts, or offset cuts. These defects might not be obvious by sight, but they can show up as a key that does not turn smoothly. The user then applies more torque. More torque increases bending risk. So accuracy upstream prevents force downstream. After cutting, finishing matters. Tiny burrs are common. Deburring removes sharp edges after cutting. Deburring makes the key feel less scratchy. It also reduces the chance of shaving metal inside the lock. Bitting is precise work, and finishing often matters as much as cutting. Now we can move on. Chapter 19: Surface finishing, making keys pleasant to handle. A freshly cut key can be functional and still unpleasant. That is why surface finishing exists. Finishing turns a functional piece into a comfortable everyday object. Tumbling is one finishing method. Tumbling is vibratory finishing with media. It smooths edges and improves handling comfort. In simple terms, the key is gently worked against small materials so sharpness is reduced. This helps remove minor burrs and softens harsh edges. Brushing and edge breaks can also be used. A small edge break is a small softening of an edge. It can change pocket comfort. It can change insertion feel. Polishing is another choice. Polishing can improve surface feel and make wiping easier. But polishing choices can vary, and this is not always the same. Plating is adding a thin metal layer. Plating matters for corrosion resistance and surface feel, but it can wear through. In daily life, plating wear often shows first as a cosmetic change. Functional impact tends to come later if corrosion roughens the surface, and this may vary. Coating is applying lacquer or polymer. Coating matters for grip and appearance, but it can chip and feel sticky over time. Coatings can change how cleaning works. A coated head may not tolerate harsh chemicals well. This is why cleaning is often just wiping, with occasional mild soap and water, then drying. Harsh chemicals are generally avoided, especially on coated keys, and especially on electronic car keys. Finishes also change how residue behaves. Residue is the small mixture of skin oils, lint, and everyday contact. A smoother finish can wipe clean more easily. A textured surface can hold residue more easily. Both have trade-offs, and this may vary. Finishing is often simple work, but it prevents daily irritation. It helps keys stay boring in the best way. Finishing turns a functional piece into a comfortable everyday object. Now we can move on. Chapter 20: Quality Checks and the Taxonomy of Does It Fit? Quality control for keys is often about preventing small annoyances. Most defects are not dramatic. They are slightly wrong conditions. A key might still enter, but it feels tight. It might still turn, but it feels scratchy. Quality checks aim to remove these small sources of friction and force. Profile gauges are one method. Go-no-go concepts are used. In simple terms, a check is designed to confirm that the key is within allowed variation. Tolerance is the allowed dimensional variation. Tiny differences decide whether a key feels smooth or tight. Gauges translate that tiny difference into a clear pass or fail result. Cut depth verification is also part of quality checks. This can be general verification that the cuts match the intended depths and spacing. If cut depths are shallow, deep, or offset, the key may operate poorly. The user may respond with extra torque. So checking helps prevent force later. Visual inspection matters too. A key can be checked for burrs and bends. A tiny bend might not be visible in the hand, but it can be felt in the lock. Burrs can scrape keyways and feel rough. So visual checks can catch problems early. Some quality systems include sample lock testing. This is a general idea, and this may vary. The purpose is simple. If a key feels wrong in a test fit, it will feel wrong in daily use too. Catching that at the factory or shop prevents frustration later. Reject reasons and rework decisions are routine. Some keys are corrected. Some are scrapped. This is part of keeping the output consistent. Packaging and labeling correctness matters as well. If a key is labeled incorrectly, it creates confusion. If blanks are sorted incorrectly, the wrong profile can be cut. So quality control includes the small administrative steps too. Key quality control is mostly about removing small sources of friction and force. Now we can move on. Chapter 21: Ergonomics, Heads, Holes, and Torque Control. Ergonomics in keys is quiet and specific. It is about how the fingers hold the head and how the hand applies torque. It is also about what happens when the key lies on a ring. The head, sometimes called the bow, is the part held by fingers. It matters for comfort, torque control, and keyring attachment. A slightly larger head can reduce finger strain. It can also help people apply torque directly, instead of twisting using the keyring as leverage. Some users twist with the ring because it feels convenient, and because the ring is already there. But using the ring as leverage can increase sideways stress, and this may vary. Texture is another choice. Texture helps grip, but texture can hold residue. A smoother head can wipe clean more easily, but it can slip when hands are wet, and this may vary. Many designs aim for a middle ground. Enough texture for control, not so much that cleaning becomes a project. The keyring hole also matters for ergonomics. The hole is an opening for a ring. Its size and reinforcement affect long-term carry wear. On a heavy ring, the hole can wear over time. Wear can change how the key hangs and how it balances. A heavy ring can also affect how a key sits in a pocket. Balance on a ring matters too. A large bundle can make a key harder to handle at a lock. It can also change how the user's hand supports the key while inserting and turning. Some people respond by lifting the bundle while turning. Some let it hang. The feel can change, and this may vary. Cold weather handling can make these choices more noticeable. With cold hands or gloves, grip becomes less precise. A head that is easier to pinch can help. A smoother head can be harder to grip. Again, trade-offs, and this may vary. Key ergonomics is mostly about steady grip and controlled torque. Now we can move on. Chapter 22: Variants as manufacturing families. Keys come in variants. A variant is often just a different manufacturing recipe. The everyday question stays the same: does it open smoothly? But behind the scenes, the recipe changes tooling and inspection. Flat keys are common. They are the familiar shape many people picture first. Within flat keys there are many profiles. A profile is the side outline that matches the keyway. Flat keys are often duplicated by common cutting methods, and finishing is focused on edges and burrs. A dimple key is a flat key with round dimple cuts. This matters because the cutting method differs and debris can collect in dimples. A tubular key is a cylindrical key with radial cuts. This matters because it uses different machines and different wear patterns. A double-sided key has cuts on both edges. This matters because it reduces which way up friction but can wear on both sides. Older styles include warded keys and skeleton keys. A warded key is an older style shape to pass internal obstructions. Its fit is more about shape clearance than fine bitting. A skeleton key is an older style, and this may vary by context. Automotive keys are another family. Some automotive keys use milled patterns, sometimes called sidewinder patterns. Some details need verification, and this may vary by type. Many car keys combine a metal blade with additional parts. Some have mold heads and shells. Some include electronics. A transponder key contains an electronic identification. This matters because function can fail electronically even if the metal is intact. A valet key is a limited access car key. It changes what it opens rather than metal geometry alone. When extra parts exist, there are extra steps. Molding, assembly, and sometimes electronics handling. This adds complexity. Complexity often shows up as higher cost and greater sensitivity to water and drops, and this may vary. Even with all these variants, the user's hand wants the same routine. Insert, push to a stop, and rotate with steady torque. The object may look different, but the calm goal is the same. Variants mostly reflect different tooling and inspection needs. Now we can move on. Chapter 23 Calm Wrap-Up, Why Keys End Up Feeling Similar. After all the materials and steps, many keys still feel similar in daily life. That similarity is not an accident. It comes from standardization and repeated targets. Standardization of blanks is one reason. Key blanks are made to match keyways. Profiles are controlled. Thickness is controlled. Many flat keys sit within familiar size ranges. Length is often described across a range of about 25 to 90 millimeters, and this may vary. Thickness for many flat keys is often around 1.5 to 3.5 millimeters, and this may vary. These ranges support familiar handling. Common finishing targets also bring similarity. Edges are softened. Burrs are removed. Chamfers reduce snagging and improve insertion feel. Tumbling smooths edges and improves handling comfort. Plating can add corrosion resistance and a familiar surface feel, even though it can wear through. Coatings can add grip, even though they can chip and feel sticky over time. Different shops choose different mixes, but the goal is similar. Ergonomic outcomes also converge. A head needs to be pinchable. A keyring hole needs to be usable. The key needs to be comfortable in pockets and easy to turn with steady torque. Designs drift toward what works for most hands most of the time. Locksmith and duplication workflows also shape the result. Duplication begins with matching the blank profile accurately. Small cutting differences affect smooth turning. Deburring reduces scratchy feel. These routines reinforce a stable expectation for how a key should behave. So when you hold a key, you are holding a small chain of choices. Material choice, thickness control, blanking, profiling, bitting, finishing, and checking. Each step aims at the same quiet outcome. A key that does its job without drama and then goes back to waiting. Manufacturing choices quietly shape how keys feel in use and how they age over time. Chapter 24 The minimal care approach most keys receive. Most keys do not get much care at all, and for many homes that works. A key is used, then put away, then used again. Hands rub it. Pockets rub it. A bag lets it bump around. Over time, those small contacts act like the only care the key ever gets. Many keys stay ordinary just from being handled. Skin oils and pocket lint build up slowly, and then they also get rubbed off slowly. A key can become smoother to the touch over time because pocket abrasion acts like slow polishing. This is not always the same, but it is common enough that many people recognize the feel. Good enough care often looks like nothing special. A key looks a little dull. It has scratches. It might look tarnished. And it still works. A key can be functionally fine while looking tarnished. Appearance and fit do not always track. The moments when care actually matters are usually small. After rain, a key can be left in a damp pocket or bag. After that, drying matters. After a sticky spill, a quick wipe matters. When grit is visible, a wipe matters. These are not big projects. They are small moments that keep the key from feeling rough, or scratchy, or stiff. A key also has a quiet relationship with the lock. If a key sticks, it can be the lock's internal condition rather than the key itself. So care is not only about the key. Sometimes the best move is to slow down, insert fully, and turn with calm pressure. If the lock itself is stiff, forcing the key does not make the system healthier. Carry habits become a kind of maintenance. A heavy keyring can change how a key feels in the lock even when the key itself is correctly cut. A key's hole often shows wear earlier than the blade because it rubs constantly against rings. So the way a key is carried can add wear without anyone meaning to. Dryness matters in a simple way. Moisture exposure without drying can speed roughness, especially for steel or plated surfaces with scratches. This may vary, but it is one of the few simple points that comes up again and again. Dry is calmer than damp. Recap: most key care is light, wipe when needed, keep reasonably dry, and avoid force. Now we can move on. Chapter 25: Simple cleaning routines that do not create new problems. Cleaning a key does not need to be intense. A calm cleaning routine aims to remove oils and grit without changing the key's shape and without damaging finishes. The simplest step is a dry wipe. A soft cloth wipe can remove skin oils and pocket lint. That is often enough. It also helps with smell, because smell is usually from hand oils and pocket fabric. A simple wipe and drying can make the key feel more ordinary again. For all metal keys, an occasional wash can be mild dish soap and warm water. Then rinse and dry fully. Drying is the part that matters most. Towel dry, then air dry briefly. Moisture left in grooves can increase dull film over time. This may vary, but it is a common enough pattern to keep in mind. A calm approach avoids harsh cleaners. Harsh cleaners can dull coatings or discolor plated finishes. A coated head can soften slightly over time, and then a harsh solvent cleaner can make that feel worse. This is not always the same, but it is a reason to keep cleaning gentle and plain. A key does not need aggressive abrasives. A dark film can be metal oxide and grime. Mild soap cleaning can help. Avoid aggressive abrasives. The goal is not to make the key look new. The goal is to keep it from feeling gritty or sticky. Car keys are a special case when they have electronics. For car keys with electronics, avoid soaking. Wipe only with a slightly damp cloth, then dry. This is simple, and it avoids bringing water into places where it may cause trouble. This may vary by design, but the wipe-only habit stays safe. After cleaning, there is a simple check that can be done in the hand. Does the key feel smooth again? Does it feel less sticky? Does it feel less gritty? If yes, the cleaning helped. If not, it might not be residue at all. It might be geometry, or wear, or a lock condition. And then cleaning is no longer the right tool. Recap: gentle cleaning removes residue without changing the key's geometry or finish. Now we can move on. Chapter 26: What degrades keys fastest in normal life. Keys can last a long time when their life is calm. But a few common habits can shorten that life quickly, without anyone noticing until the key starts to feel wrong. Excess torque is one of the fastest paths to trouble. This can happen with stiff locks, rushing, or turning with the ring as a lever. When force increases, the key becomes more likely to bend or twist. A key that is slightly bent may still open a lock, but it usually feels less smooth. And the need for extra force can become a repeating pattern. Turning while the key is only partially inserted is another fast path. A fully inserted key is supported by the keyway. A partially inserted key is less supported and easier to twist. Twisting can start as a subtle change in feel and later become a real turning problem. Heavy key bundles also matter. Carrying very heavy keychains can amplify bending and hole elongation. The key becomes part of a swinging bundle. Over time, that movement wears the hole. The hole can become oval-shaped, and edges can become sharper. This can increase break risk in a very ordinary way. Abrasion is another steady degrader. Coins, sand, and grit in pockets can scratch keys and increase grime retention. Pocket grit can create a rough feel over time. Outdoor lock keys often collect more grit, which increases scratch patterns. This may vary, but it is easy to notice when a key starts to feel more scratchy than it used to. Drops and impacts matter too. Repeated drops on hard floors are especially harsh for keys with mold heads. A mold head can loosen. A slight rattle can appear. This is not always the same, but impacts are a common cause. And then there is misuse. Using a key as a pry tool, scraper, box cutter, or screwdriver can dent edges and change alignment. It can deform a cut. It can create sticking. The key was not meant for those jobs. Moisture exposure without drying is the last common fast degrader. Especially for steel or plated surfaces with scratches, moisture can lead to roughness. Dry after exposure. Keep the key reasonably dry. It is a small habit that prevents a bigger problem. Recap: keys last longer when force is calm, aligned, and limited to turning a fully inserted blade. Now we can move on. Chapter 27: Wear patterns you can notice without measuring. A key gives small signs as it ages. You do not need tools to notice many of them. You can notice them by sight and by feel, in a calm way. One common change is shine. Shiny spots appear where fingers grip. Dull patches appear where coins rub. A bright, polished key shows scratches earlier than a matte one. These shine changes are usually cosmetic. They describe how the key is carried, more than they describe function. Another common sign is scratches that catch a fingernail. Most scratches are just lines. But a scratch that catches a fingernail can also catch lint. It can hold grime. It can sometimes become a small burr over time. This may vary. Rounded cut edges are more specific. Cuts that look noticeably smoothed compared to a newer spare can be a sign of wear. Bitting edge rounding tends to build slowly. At first, the key still works. Then turning can become less crisp. Then there can be occasional sticky operation. The earliest sign is often a subtle increase in resistance, followed by a need to wiggle. A slight bend can sometimes be seen edge on. If a key is bent, it may not insert straight. A key can show a slight wobble when rolled on a flat surface. This is a simple check. It is not always the same, but it can reveal a bend that is hard to see otherwise. The hole near the head tells a story too. Keyring hole elongation can show up as an oval-shaped hole. Edges can become sharp. Wear near the hole can be a calm warning, especially for heavy rings. Coated heads can show another sign. A coating peel can start as a small lifted edge. Then the key can feel sticky, and flakes can appear. That sticky coating feel is a real sensation, even if the metal blade still works fine. A newly cut key sometimes feels rough until tiny burrs wear off or are removed. So not every rough feel is deep wear. Sometimes it is just a new edge that needs a calm deburr, or a short period of ordinary use. Recap: cosmetic wear is common, functional wear shows up as resistance and the need for extra motion. Now we can move on. Chapter 28: Failure Modes as a Calm Checklist, Part 1. Many key problems begin as texture problems. They begin as roughness, not as sudden breakage. This is useful, because texture changes can show up early. Burr formation on cuts is one example. Burrs can come from rough cutting or abrasion. They can create scratchy insertion. They can create a scraping feel, and sometimes metal dust. A wipe and a careful deburr can help. If burrs recur, or if there is keyway damage risk, replacement may be the calmer choice. Tip wear is another. Tip wear can come from insertion impacts. It can start as minor burrs. Then insertion becomes harder. A gentle deburr and careful insertion can help. If the tip deforms enough to misalign insertion, replacement is more practical. Bitting edge rounding is slower. Friction and repeated use can reduce crisp edges. Turning becomes slightly less crisp. Sticky operation can appear. Copying from a worn key can reproduce wear instead of restoring original shape. So a worn template can lead to a worn copy. If available, code cut replacement can be a better reset. This may vary because availability is not always the same. Plating wear-through is often first seen as dull patches. Pocket abrasion can create dull areas. Then local corrosion or discoloration can appear. Wipe and keep dry. Replace if corrosion roughens the surface enough to change feel. Corrosion roughness is often tied to moisture and scratches, especially for steel. Small rust spots can form. Then rough insertion and staining can appear. Dry after exposure. A light oil wipe may be appropriate in some cases, and this may vary. Replace if pitting affects feel. Tarnish buildup is another surface change, common for brass. Oxidation and oils can darken brass. This is mostly cosmetic. Mild soap cleaning can help. Replace only if geometry is worn, color alone is not a reason. Contamination embedded in grooves can create gritty insertion. Pocket lint and grit can pack in. This can increase lock wear over time. A periodic wipe and a gentle brushing can help, and this may vary. Replace only if grooves are damaged. Recap: early failures are usually about roughness and reduced smoothness, not sudden breakage. Now we can move on. Chapter 29: Failure Modes as a Calm Checklist, Part 2. Some failure modes are more structural. They often begin quietly, and then become obvious near the end. Knowing the quiet early signs helps. Blade bending is common after excess torque or prying. A slight bend can show as a wobble when rolled on a flat surface. Later, the key can jam, or it may not insert straight. Avoid heavy keychains, reduce force, and avoid misuse. Replace when the bend affects insertion or turning. Blade twisting often comes from turning while partially inserted. It can begin as a subtle misalignment feel. Then there can be intermittent turning failure. The calm prevention is simple: insert fully before turning. Replace when twisting causes frequent issues. Head cracks, for metal heads, often begin near the hole. Stress concentrates near the hole. Hairline marks can appear. Then the head can break off. Watching the area near the hole is a calm habit, especially for heavy rings. Replace at the first visible crack. Cueing hole elongation is related but slightly different. Heavy rings rubbing can make the hole oval-shaped. Edges can become sharp. Break risk can increase. Reduce weight, use calmer ring habits, and replace if elongation threatens breakage. Mold head loosening is common after impacts or temperature cycles. A slight rattle can appear. Then head separation can happen. Avoid drops, and do not twist by the head shell. Replace when movement becomes noticeable. Car keys can fail even when the metal blade looks fine. Transponder failure can occur because electronics age or take impact. This needs verification by diagnosis. It can start as occasional no start, and then become frequent. Protect from drops. Replace battery if relevant. Replace when confirmed by service. Remote button wear can also appear on a car fob. Repeated pressing can change the tactile feel. Then there can be intermittent input. Keep clean and dry. Replace casing or fob if controls fail. Some failures are not about time, but about one moment. A key used as a tool can dent edges. Key cut deformation from misuse can cause sticking. Avoid those moments. Replace if dents disrupt alignment. Recap: structural issues usually begin quietly and become obvious only near the end. Now we can move on. Chapter 30: Gentle Prevention, Habits that Reduce Wear. Prevention for keys is mostly about removing sideways forces. It is not about adding chores. It is about small habits that keep the key and lock relationship calm. Insert fully before turning. This is one of the simplest habits. A fully inserted key is supported by the lock's keyway. A partially inserted key is unsupported and easier to twist. Twisting is one of the fastest ways to create long-term trouble. Turn with the head, not the ring. Turning with a ring as a lever can add sideways stress. A heavy keyring can change how a key feels in the lock even when the key itself is correctly cut. Using the ring as leverage adds force in the wrong direction. So the calm habit is to hold the head and turn in line with the lock. Reduce ring weight. Heavy keychains amplify bending and hole elongation. The hole often shows wear earlier than the blade. A lighter ring reduces rubbing, reduces swing, and reduces fatigue near the hole. Some people keep a quiet key set with fewer keys to reduce noise and wear. This is not always the same, but it can be a simple improvement. Separate keys from coins and grit. Coins, sand, and grit create scratches. Scratches can hold grime. Grit can create a gritty feel that encourages extra force. If a key feels gritty, people tend to wiggle and force. So reducing grit reduces force. Dry after rain. Do not leave keys in a damp pocket or bag after rain. Moisture exposure without drying can speed roughness, especially for steel or plated surfaces with scratches. Towel dry and air dry briefly is enough. Avoid key as tool moments. Using a key as a pry tool, scraper, box cutter, or screwdriver is a common misuse pattern. It can dent edges, deform cuts, and create sticking. A key is an access tool, not a general tool. Keep a spare that is rarely carried. A spare stored in a known drawer can stay less worn. It can act as a clean reference later. Recap: a few calm habits reduce most key wear without adding new chores. Now we can move on. Chapter 31: Replacement decisions that stay practical. Keys are often replaced for ordinary reasons. Loss happens. Household changes happen. Locks are replaced. Or the key begins to feel less smooth, and the routine becomes less calm. A useful rule is to replace when function changes, not when color changes. Tarnish on brass is often cosmetic. A key can look tarnished and still work well. Appearance and fit do not always track. So it is calmer to watch function. A key that regularly sticks, needs wiggling, or requires unusually high force is a practical sign. That sign matters most after confirming the lock itself is not the issue. If the lock is stiff, the key can feel wrong even when it is fine. This may vary. So the decision is about the whole system. Visible bending or twisting, especially when viewed edge-on, is another sign. A bend that affects insertion or turning is not worth forcing. Cracks near the head or keyring hole are also strong signs. Replace at the first visible crack. If a household has multiple copies, the least worn one is the best template. Copying from a very worn key can lead to a copy of a copy fit, where errors accumulate and geometry drifts. Rounded cuts that look noticeably smoothed compared to a newer spare are a clue that the template is not the best one. If code cutting is available, it can help when a worn key copies poorly. This may vary. Not every situation supports it. But the idea is simple: do not reproduce wear if you can avoid it. Labeling the new spare matters too. Key identification wear can happen when markings fade. Unreadable stamp can lead to mixing keys. A key tag can reduce confusion even though label tags can add bulk that changes pocket comfort. This may vary, but clear labeling tends to remove daily friction. For car keys, replacement signs can be different. Intermittent recognition can be an electronic issue rather than metal wear. This may vary. A calm approach is to treat the metal and the electronics as separate possibilities. Recap: replace keys based on smooth function and reliable fit, not on surface color. Now we can move on. Chapter 32: Small Problems and Gentle Remedies. Many key problems are not really damage. They are residue. They are small, removable layers that change feel. Sticky residue on the head can come from everyday oils or from a spill. A gentle wipe is often enough. Avoid solvent cleaners, especially on coated heads. Some coated heads can soften slightly over time, and harsh cleaners can make the sticky feel worse. This may vary. Lint packed into grooves can create a gritty feel. Pocket lint and grit can pack in corners. A wipe can remove surface residue. A light brushing can help, and this may vary. After cleaning, drying matters, because moisture left in grooves can increase dull film over time. Slight burrs after duplication are common. A newly cut key sometimes feels rough until tiny burrs wear off or are removed. A careful deburr can help. But if the key is miscut, smoothing will not fix geometry. In that case, replacement is the calm choice. Mild corrosion spots can show up, especially with moisture exposure and scratches. Wipe: mild soap wash for all metal keys, rinse, and dry fully. If corrosion roughness becomes pitting that affects feel, replacement becomes more practical. This may vary by material and use. Rough feel from pocket grit is another common one. Coins, sand, and grit create scratches and grime retention. A wipe and an occasional mild wash can remove grime. Changing carry habits can prevent it from returning. Separating keys from coins can be enough. Sometimes the calm remedy is to stop trying to fix it. If a key is bent, cleaning will not make it straight. If cuts are rounded, wiping will not restore crisp geometry. If cracks appear near the hole, wiping is not a solution. In those cases, replacement is the simple end. Recap: gentle cleaning fixes residue, replacement fixes geometry. Now we can move on. Chapter 33: End of Life. What happens to old keys? Old keys often remain in drawers for years. They are small and easy to keep. People hesitate to throw them away. So end of life tends to be slow. One calm choice is to retire an old key to spare only. If a key still works but feels less smooth, it can be kept as a backup, not a daily driver. It can be placed in a known drawer. It can be labeled so it does not become a mystery key later. A retired key can also be used as a test key for checking lock smoothness. That is a boring, practical use. Another choice is to donate a spare to a household member as a backup, where appropriate. This may vary by household. The point is simple: if the key still has a job, it can still be useful. Recycling is possible for many keys as metal scrap, but access depends on local acceptance. This may vary. Some places accept small metal items easily, and some do not. Small size can also be lost in sorting. So even when recycling is possible, it is not always consistent. Material differences matter in a general way. Brass and nickel silver are generally valuable as scrap metal, but small size can still be lost in sorting. Steel is recyclable, but rust and contamination may reduce value. This may vary. Mixed material keys add another complication. Keys with mold heads, or electronics, often need separation to recycle well. In practice, they are often discarded as mixed waste. Electronic car keys have battery and circuit components that complicate disposal. Treat like small electronics where possible. This is general guidance, not location specific. A calm approach is to decide what an old key is. Is it a spare? Is it scrap? Or is it simple disposal? Any of these can be fine. The goal is to avoid the slow pile-up of unknown keys that outlive their stories. Recap: end of life for keys is usually a choice between spare storage, scrap recycling, or simple disposal. Now we can move on. Chapter 34: Mild trivia as a slow closing texture. Keys are threshold objects. They are often kept near thresholds because thresholds are decision points in daily routines. That is why key bowls persist. Many household keys spend most of their time sitting still in one of a few repeating locations. Keys also change quietly over time. Pocket abrasion acts like slow polishing. A key becomes smoother to the touch. Shine shifts. Scratches appear. A bright, polished key shows scratches earlier than a matte one. The key still works, and life goes on. Two keys that look similar can feel different because small thickness differences change friction. The same key can feel different in the same lock depending on hand angle and load direction. This may vary. Fit is not only about the key, it is also about the moment of use. A key's hole often shows wear earlier than the blade because it rubs constantly against rings. Heavy keyrings add stress. A heavy keyring can change how a key feels in the lock even when the key itself is correctly cut. Some people keep a quiet key set with fewer keys to reduce noise and wear. This is not always the same, but it is a calm idea. Many people recognize keys by touch patterns on the head rather than by sight. A small nick, a certain edge, a different feel, is enough. Key identification wear can happen when markings fade. Unreadable stamps can lead to mixing keys. Key tags reduce confusion but can add bulk that changes pocket comfort. This may vary. Some keys are used daily, while others are used only a few times per year. A spare key stored for years can look new but still benefit from a quick wipe before use. Keys that live in bags tend to have fewer pocket lint deposits but more small impact marks. Outdoor keys often collect more grit, which increases scratch patterns. Keys outlive situations. People frequently carry keys longer than they keep the locks those keys fit. A lock is replaced, and the key remains. That is why the mystery key drawer is common. Recap: keys often outlast the situations that originally required them. Now we can move on. Chapter 35: Calm summary: keeping keys boring for a long time. A key stays ordinary when its life is simple. Gentle turning. Full insertion before turning. Reasonable dryness. Low abrasion. And no misuse as a tool. Most key care is light. A soft cloth wipe removes oils and pocket lint. An occasional mild dish soap and warm water wash works for all metal keys, followed by rinse and full drying. Drying matters because moisture left in grooves can increase dull film over time. For car keys with electronics, wipe only with a slightly damp cloth, then dry. Avoid soaking. Avoid harsh cleaners that dull coatings or discolor plated finishes. Most wear comes from force, not from time. Excess torque, stiff locks, rushing, turning with the ring as a lever, and turning while partially inserted are fast ways to create bending or twisting. Heavy keychains amplify bending and hole elongation. Coins and grit add abrasion. Drops add impacts, especially for mold heads. Moisture exposure without drying adds roughness risk, especially for steel or plated surfaces with scratches. These may vary, but they are common patterns. Replacement decisions stay practical when they focus on function. A key can be tarnished and still fine. Color alone is not a reason. Sticking, wiggling, unusually high force, visible bending, twisting, cracks near the head or hole, and clear loss of smoothness are better guides. If a household has multiple copies, copy from the least worn one. Keep an unworn spare as a reference. Consider code cutting if available. This may vary. Old keys do not have to pile up. They can be labeled spares in a known drawer. They can be treated as scrap recycling where accepted. Mixed material keys and electronic car keys may need different handling, and this may vary. A calm choice is simply to decide what each old key is, and let it have a clear place, or a clear ending. Recap: a key stays boring when it is handled gently, carried simply, and replaced without drama.